וכתהילים צועדת על הים, נוצרת צפנים, פורצת ושקיעה עונה יום וליל, המלכה היכלתי לדור חלקות לחיים, אך נשלח עובר ונקרא, ונחה לפני פורתנו, אילנות ביתה להתמוגג, מפלצות הסלע, נשים לנו בבית, שרית בקודש נזיר, אמו איתך יהיה, חסרון ילי, לחם היית לצלם, מן האדמה פעותייך לתת, יודע אשר בכל לב, מספרה כל נפלאותייך.
Here in Israel, finding a place to take the kids on Chol HaMoed, the intermediate days of the festivals of Pesach and Sukkot, is always a challenge. I find it difficult to get excited about the prospect of picnicking in a park in Tel Aviv on a small patch of faded grass together with a couple of thousand other families. I'm just funny that way, I guess. And so it was a great pleasure to discover the Blind Museum in Holon, which has a special exhibition, Dialogue in the Dark. In this museum, you're led through several large rooms in total, complete darkness. The only way you can sense where you are is by using your other senses, touch, smell, hearing. The place is a fascinating approximation of what it must be like to be blind, Shem Yerachim. When I woke up the following morning, and I said the blessing to Hashem, who gives sight to the blind, I said that blessing as though I'd never said it before in my life. Blindness plays a central role in this week's Torah portion, Toldot. Yitzhak, Isaac, cannot see that it's really Yaakov, Jacob, to whom he's giving the blessings. And yet, on a deeper level, he sees that the correct recipient of those blessings is indeed Yaakov, is Jacob. Because through the bad smell of the washed goatskins that cover Yaakov's arms, Yitzhak, Isaac, can detect the aroma of Gan Eden, of the Garden of Eden, that enters the room together with Yaakov. The guides in the Holon Museum are all sightless themselves, and yet they've developed their other senses to an amazing degree. They're able to navigate the sight as though they had eyes as they were walking around in broad daylight. In many ways, this world is like that museum, that blind museum. In this world, we think we see, but there's so much more that's hidden from our eyes than that which is revealed. From just looking at the world, would you know that on sunset on Friday afternoon, you enter a different existence, an out-of-time experience called Shabbat? I remember the first time I kept Shabbat properly. I woke up the following morning and I thought it was Monday. Can you see that with your eyes? There are those amongst us who, while they cannot see those realities completely, they've developed their spiritual eyes so that they can make out the spiritual world far more clearly than the rest of us. They are the great Torah scholars of every generation who guide us around this blind museum that we call the world.
So that was an interesting way to start things. Well, welcome back, everyone, after about a week-long hiatus because I had actually got ahead of myself, but now we're back on track. So do you have any thoughts on that, Graham, before we start?
No, interesting. It's blindness definitely plays a role to here.
It's also interesting because there was this one blind sage called Sagi Nahor, and he was blind, but like he I think his name means full of light because it was said that he could like see a spiritual light that everybody else couldn't because they were so blinded by the mundane world, like implying that there was a connection between his blindness and his spiritual sight.
Well, that's not uncommon you have that in Greek mythology with the seer Tiresias,
Oh yeah.
and that also ties into Odin, where he was half and half. The blinding of the one eye was so that he could see both into the spiritual realm and this realm at the same time. Tag.
I don't know. Yeah, it's just kind of interesting that you also have like that motif with Isaac that he's like, oh, so what did you think about that idea? I've never heard that before. That like he could smell Gan Eden from Yaakov.
I had not heard that one before either.
It sounds like almost
Again,
like yeah.
I was going to say this is a very short section in the written in the Bible, but there's been a lot that's been interpreted and read out of it. Tag.
Yeah, definitely. I did want to go over this one video again because I thought it was interesting. How what was it? I think was this one?
We'll have no clue that in 20.
I'm pretty sure it was. Yeah, no, it was. This one.
Even before they were born, Jacob and Esau struggled in the womb. They were destined, it seemed, to be eternal adversaries. Not only were they different in character and appearance, they also had different places in their parents' affections. Listen to the verse. The boys grew up, and Esau became a skillful hunter, a man of the open country, while Jacob was an Ishtam, a quiet man staying among the tents. Isaac, who had a taste for wild game, loved Esau, but Rebekah loved Jacob. We know why Rebekah loved Jacob. Before the twins were born, the pains Rebekah felt were so great, Vatelech lidroshet Hashem, she went to inquire of the Lord, and this is what she was told. Shnei goyim bevitnech, there are two nations in your womb. Two peoples from within you will separate. One people will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger.
I mean, that's honestly kind of eerie, isn't it?
Well, eerie, and again, it's also echoing where you have this, you have that echoing Isaac and Ishmael. You have the
Yeah.
brothers at each other, the descendants of the brothers at each other again. The two nations being fathered also by, in this case, by Isaac, and last time it was Abraham.
Yeah, I don't know, it's just interesting with everything going on now, but also like how I mean he'll mention it later. I mean, we already watched this video, but I wanted to show it for the stream before we got into things, but just how Esau isn't seen as exclusively bad. That's only one of the interpretations, and just like that's only one opinion. But beyond that, the idea that a certain land was given to them, and it's like it gets interesting because it's like right next to the land that's given to Israel, and it's like there's just so many potential allusions you can see to the modern day, and honestly, I don't know like what to even say about that. Um,
I was going to say that also will tie in later on with some of the whole politics of the Hasmonean eras between the Nabateans and the Hasmoneans. And also, I see it with Korah and the whole Petra analogy that we've talked about before.
oh, wait, Usal likes the idea that the reason so much was written on so little was to compensate for the good chance that Yaakov was really the son of Avimelech. Yaakov is the usurper. Esau has every reason to be upset. I think Ishmael too. Interesting. I mean, but again, why would they be twins? Like, you could see that with Ishmael, but what about Esau? I mean, they're literally twins.
Well, my guess is that firstborn versus secondborn.
Well, yeah, but he seems to be implying that Jacob isn't. Oh, Yitzchak. Okay, that makes more sense. Okay. Anyway, let's continue.
It seemed as if God was saying that the younger would prevail and carry forward the burden of history. So it was the younger, Jacob, whom Rebekah loved. But why in that case did Isaac love Esau? Didn't he know about Rebekah's oracle? Hadn't she told him about it? Besides, didn't he know that Esau was wild and impetuous? Can we really take literally the proposition that Isaac loved Esau 𤤕𤤃𤕕 because he had a taste for wild game, as if his affection were determined by his stomach, by the fact that his elder son brought him food that he loved? Surely not, when the very future of the covenant was at stake. The classic answer given by Rashi listens closely to the text. Esau says the Torah knew how to trap 𤤕𤤃𤕕. Isaac loved him because 𤤕𤤃𤕕, because there was entrapment in his mouth. Now listen to how Rashi reads this. First of all, 𝐤�𤅅𤄣𝄣. Esau knew how
Yeah,
to trap, says
Rabbi
Rashi.
Rabbi
He
John
knew how to
Sachs was
trap.
he was amazing. I think all Jews love him regardless of their political or religious affiliation. And then Hashem also loved barbecue, that he did. It definitely seems like there's a lot of things, or at least affinities, that are in common between the patriarchs and God. I don't know, just what's the word? Just
Well,
observation.
weren't
Yeah.
they created in God's image? So you figure if God's got a hankering for some nice meat, so with the patriarchs.
True.
And deceive his father with his mouth. He would ask him, Father, how should one tithe salt and straw? Consequently, his father believed him to be strict in observing the commands. Note how Rashi reads this. 𝐤��𤄣𝄣, he knew how to trap not animals, but his father. 𤤕𤤃𤕕, because there was entrapment in Esau's mouth. Esau knew full well that salt and straw don't require tithes, but he asked Isaac so as to give the impression that he was punctiliously religious. And this is how Rashi then comments on the phrase that Isaac loved him, 𤤕𤄃𝕕, because there was entrapment in his mouth. The Midrash don't require tithes, but he asked Isaac so as to give the impression that he was punctiliously religious. And this is how
That was
Rashi
kind
then
of a
comments
gamble
on the
there.
phrase that Isaac loved him, 𤤕𤄃𝕕, because there was entrapment in his mouth. The Midrashic explanation, says Rashi, is that there was entrapment in the mouth of Esau, who trapped his father and deceived him by his words. The Maggid of Dubnov adds a fascinating little observation. How was it that Isaac was deceived by Esau, but not Rebekah? He says Rebekah grew up with the wily Laban. She knew deception when she saw it. Isaac, however, only grew up with Abraham and Sarah, so he only ever knew total honesty. It was a bit, if you excuse the comparison, like here, what Bertrand Russell said about the incredibly honest philosopher 𝐕𝐅𝐿, that he only ever heard 𝐕𝐅𝐿 once tell a lie. And that was when he said, Moore, have you ever told a lie? And Moore said, yes. So the classic answer is that Isaac loved Esau because he simply didn't know who or what Esau was. But there is another possible answer, the reverse, that Isaac loved Esau precisely because he did know who and what Esau was. In the early 20th century, someone brought to the great Rabbi Abraham Isaac Kook, Rav Kook, the first Ashkenazi chief rabbi of pre-state Israel, the following dilemma. This was a man who'd given his son a good Jewish education, and his son had always kept the commandments at home. But now the son had drifted away from Judaism. He no longer kept the commandments. He didn't even identify as a Jew. And he wanted to know from Rav Kook what, as a parent, he should do. Rav Kook asked him, did you love your son before when he was religious? The man replied, of course I did. Rav Kook said, well then, now love him even more. Sometimes love can do what rebuke cannot. It may be the Torah is telling us that Isaac was anything but blind as to his elder son's true nature. But if you have two children, one well-behaved, the other one liable to turn out badly, to whom should you devote greater attention? With whom should you spend more time? It may be that Isaac loved Esau not blindly, but with open eyes, knowing that there would be times when his elder son would give him grief, but knowing too that the moral responsibility of parenthood demands that we do not despair of or disown a wayward son. Did Isaac's love have an effect on Esau? Well, yes and no. It is clear there was a special bond of connection between Esau and Isaac. This was recognized by the sages. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel said, "No man ever honored his father as much as I honored my father, but I discovered that Esau honored his father even more." Rabbi Shimon derives this from the fact that usually people serve their parents wearing ordinary clothes while they reserve their best clothes for going out. Esau, however, had kept his bigdei chamudot, his best clothes, in readiness to serve his father the food that he'd gone out to hunt. And that's why, while he was away, Jacob was able to wear them while Esau was gone out to hunt. Clothes in readiness to serve his father the food that he'd gone out to hunt. And that's why, while he was away, Jacob had clothes while they reserved their best clothes for going out. Esau, however, had kept his bigdei chamudot, his best clothes, in readiness to serve his father.
Okay, so this is interesting. So, was it? So 0 said Abel and Cain, hunters versus gatherers, shepherds versus farmers, rural versus urban. The only thing with that, though, is that so you have Cain, who's the shepherd, and Abel, or no, I mean Abel, who's the shepherd, and Cain, who's the farmer. And then here you have Jacob, who's more of like a farmer type person, or he's in the tent, but like he makes the lentil stew, versus Esau is the hunter. So it's like, oh, I see what you mean. Oh, okay, because it's like two different things. So you have hunter. Wait, it almost seems like Jacob and Esau are, or Esau and Jacob are hunter versus gatherer. Wait, no, what am I thinking? So no, Esau's hunter gatherer, and then Jacob is sedimentary. Not sedimentary, I mean sedentary. Sorry, I'm tired. And then you have Cain and Abel, which is shepherd versus farmer.
Yeah, no, that was definitely it. I've always heard that early parts of the Bible is the echoing of the Bronze Age move from the hunting, the hunting into much more of the settled agricultural urban life. It was definitely reminiscent of that one. The other one in this story that I noted is Jacob was kind of taking a risk, sitting there and asking about the salt and the straw, because the other option would have been Isaac responding with "What are you, Meshuggah? Everybody knows you don't pay. You don't pay on that one. You touched in the head. He was taking a risk there. Tag.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Violence of killing, meat husbandry, refinement of agriculture, male hunters, female gatherers, beginnings of sedentary agriculture and wild sowing, nomads following animals bumping into settlements. Oh no, I saw your comment. I was actually, I mean, you didn't have to, because it was actually kind of relevant, but I really see a lot of parallels between the story of Jacob and Esau and with like, see, the thing is like the idea of like, I was going to say like, Israelis and Palestinians, but then I was going to say Jews and Palestinians, but then really like at the end of the day, it's interesting because at the end of the day, Israeli can, define both, someone who's Jewish and someone who's an Arab. And then it's the same with Palestinian. It used to be Palestinian used to be referring to Like, you know, someone who lived in like the region, regardless of whether they were Jewish or Arab or whatever. And then now it's like it's this thing that's divisive in the same way that like I don't know, but just the idea of like two peoples and exactly. Honestly, I'm a proponent of the Canaanist movement. I think we should. I mean, uh it's like it sucks. I even feel like I don't know if I should say this, but no, like I honestly feel like if the state was called Canaan and then you just had, I mean, it could be something as simple as like, oh, you have, you know, a state of Israel and the state of Palestine within the nation of Canaan. Nation of Canaan, it almost rhymes. Come on, let's do it. But in all seriousness, and then you can even have the federal government set up a Canaanite pantheon as the official state religion. That way, you can give the Jews and the Muslims and the Christians something to unify over to hate against. I think that's a perfect idea. What about you, Graham?
No, I agree. That's always a good idea. Is unify people through their hate and fear. That's been definitely one. Basically, when it comes down to the Jew-Palestinian thing, I think the important one is you need to decide which one's the good guy, which one's the bad guy, because everything else follows from there.
Can we go back to fundamentalist extremists being the bad guys and the good guys being the moderates and the people who are willing to talk?
Only if the moderates can make enough noise to drown out the extremists, because it's usually about volume and hysteria of shrieking. Tag.
Mm-hmm. Genetics proves this, yeah. I mean, that's something that I do want to bring up. I want to read some Torah first, but then we'll. And then I don't know the context of please, but let's see. What's this? Goddess figures, first matron deities of cities built around a communal granary. I think it's pretty interesting because you have this idea of the mother of the princes of Israel, like in Ezekiel, and it's clearly referring to something. The only problem is that there was no one mother of the princes of Israel. You could say, oh, it's Rebecca, but the princes of Israel implies the sons of Jacob, not Jacob himself. Therefore, but the point is this idea. There's a common like co-equivalency between land and like the divine feminine, and so you have some really interesting parallels that pop up.
Well,
yeah.
Couldn't you go with its? You got a couple of options there for the mothers of Israel, because you have one, they kept going back to Haran to get wives, and they all seem to be, basically descendants of Terah and his wife. So that could be one angle on it. Another one is going the Job route, because Job also ended up going to Haran with his 3 daughters. Peg.
Yeah, but the only thing is there's only one mother of Israel that's mentioned.
Just throwing ideas out.
Yeah. Anyway, here we should probably get. Oh, I didn't even see the time. Anyway. ברכו את אדוני המבורך, ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד, ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים, ונתן לנו את תורתו, ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה. ואלה תולדות יצחק בן אברהם, אברהם הוליד את יצחק, ויהי יצחק בן 40 שנה, בחקתו את רבקה בת בתואל הארמי, מפדן ארם אחות לבן הארמי, ויתר יצחק לאדוני לנחוח אשתו כי עקרה היא, ויתר לו אדוני ותהר רבקה אשתו, ויתרוצצו אבנים בקרבה, ותאמר אם כן למה זה אנוכי, ותלך לדרוש את אדוני, ויאמר אדוני לשני גויים ביתנך ושני לאומים ממאייך ייפרדו, ולאום מלאום יאמץ, ורב יעבוד צעיר. וימלאו ימי הלדת, והנה תומים וביתנה, ויצא הראשון האדמוני כולו כאדרת שיער, ויקראו שמו עשיו, ואחרי כן יצא אחייו, וידו אחוזת בעקב עשיו, ויקרא שמו יעקב, ויצחק בן 60 שנה בלדתותם. ויגדלו הנערים, ויהי עשיו איש יודע, צעיר איש שדה, ויעקב איש תם, יושב אוהלים. ויאהב יצחק את עשיו, כי צעיר בפיו, ורבקה אוהבת את יעקב. So, and these are and this is the lineage from Isaac, the son of Abraham. Abraham begat Isaac, and so Isaac was 40 years when he took Rebecca, the daughter of Bethuel, the Aramean, or Ha'arami, from Padan Aram, the sister of Laban, the Aramean, to be for him as a wife. And Isaac, what's this word? Isaac entreated or supplicated to God, Lenechoach, before or for his wife, because she was akara, she was barren. So what do you make of this? She's barren, and she's, it's not like she's old.
Again, the barren thing echoes back to Abraham and Sarah and all.
True. Let's see. And God, Adonai entreated him and Tahar, and Rebecca, his wife, became pregnant. What's this word? Tahar. Yeah, conceived or became pregnant. And Vaitarats, Ratsats, crush. But the sons crushed each other in Rivka, and she said, if this, or why is this, or if so, why is this? Or no, why am I? Why do I exist? Where is this? V'telech lidrosh et Adonai. Let's see. If this, why is this the path? Why is the no? If this is the case, why is this for me? Why is this me? It doesn't translate well. And she went to seek the Lord, seek Adonai. And she and Adonai said to her, two Shnei Goyim, 2 nations are in your womb, and two peoples. Technically, I would actually, Goyim would be better translated as people. So 2 peoples are in your belly, and 2 nations from your womb. Maybe the first one. Two peoples are in your belly, and 2 nations from your womb will separate or will divide, and nation from nation. I don't know, and nation milaum, and a nation and nation from nation will strengthen and grow. Yeah, Vod Sayer. And the younger will wait, and will no, and it will serve the younger. It's hard to translate, especially when you're tired. And when the days of her bearing were finished, she there were twins, Tomim. It seems like it would be Tomim. No, Tomim is 2 twins, maybe. There are twins in her womb, or in her belly, and they and the first one came forth Admoni, ruddy or red like. So this is interesting. Oh, I think I just figured it out. So he came out Admoni kulo ke'aderet. And aderet is a glory or a cloak or a mantle or a cowl.
Birth cowl.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Kaderet se'ar, it says like a hairy mantle. Wait, let's see. Admoni kulo kaderet se'ar. Like him. Kulo. Oh, all over. He was complete. Oh, he was completely red, and like se'ar hair. Let's see. Oh, this is interesting. Apparently here, Ish Be'al Sa'ar. Wait, is this? Wait. I don't know. This says a man with a garment of skin, so it seems like it could be skin, but like you know about like some of the beliefs about like a birth cowl.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm trying to see if there's
The bigger the screen, the better.
This is Ridley's arena.
oh sorry. Not I thought it was something else. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, oh, yeah, here. 1 second. Let's see. Control V. Here you go. Let's see. Where were we? Yeah, let's just continue. So, and so they called his name Esau, and after that, came out his brother, and his hand was seizing onto the heel of Esau, and they called his name Yaakov, and Isaac was Isaac was 60 years old when he bore them. And the youths grew up, and Isaac was a man who knew hunting, a man of the field, and Yaakov was a simple man who dwelled in tents. And Yitzchak and Isaac loved Esau because of the hunting of his mouth, or like the cunning of his mouth, or because of the game in his mouth. And Rebecca loved Isaac. It's like emphasizing she just loved Isaac. So here you're establishing like this separation between the two, like this like division between both the parents and the siblings. Via Zed. Why can't you see chat anymore? I can't email it to you, dude. I'm sorry. I'm too busy right now. How are you not able to see chat? I mean, how are you? Yeah, how would you not be able to see chat but still be able to type in it?
Maybe reload the YouTube.
Yeah. And when Jacob was boiling up some stew, or yeah, like some a pottage, something boiled, Esau came in from the field, and he was exhausted. And Esau said to Jacob, cause me to swallow, basically pour down, please, give to me to swallow down, please, from the ha'adom, from the red, from the red, this red, that because I'm exhausted upon and therefore his name was called Edom. And Jacob said, sell me like the day, kayom et sell me like the day of your birthright to me. And Esau said, behold, I am halech. I am going to die. And why? And so why is it this for me? Why is this birthright for me? Like, what is the birthright for me? And that doesn't make sense. I don't know. It seems strange. I like the interpretation that they have, but still. But was it? Oh wait, I already read past. I think. Wait, where? No, wait. I don't. Wait, we started at 19. So okay, so no. So this is where it was. ויזד יעקב נזיד ויבוא עשיו מן השדה והוא עייף ויאמר עשיו אל יעקב הלעיטני נא מן האדום הזה כי עייף אנוכי על כן קרא שמו אדום. ויאמר יעקב מהיכרק היום את בכורותיך לי. ויאמר עשיו הנה אנוכי הולך למות ולמה זה לי בכורה. ויאמר יעקב ישבע לי כיום וישבע לו וימכור את בכורתו ליעקב. ויעקב נתן לעשיו לחם ונזיד עדשים ויאכל ויקם וילך ויבז עשיו את הבכורה. So yeah, I already read that, right? That. And he said to Jacob, and Jacob said, swear this to me like the day, and he swore it to him, and he sold to him his birthright to Jacob. And Jacob gave to Esau bread and nazid, a stew of adashim, of lentils, and he ate it, and he drank, and Esau ate, and he drank, and he rose, and he went, and he and so Esau just disdained his birthright. So it's interesting because it doesn't say that he gave him the red stew. It says he gave them the adashim. It almost seems like it might be two different things.
I don't know the language well enough for that. So
Oh, cool. When you chant, Yafa starts barking with you. She's kind of chuckling too. Let's see. So how much is this? I'm gonna decide. Am I crazy enough to? Nah, I think we'll do. Wait, let's see. Wait.
So,
Yeah.
I'm the Neanderthal were known to kind of be freckled, have red hair, and there was the interbreeding of Cro-Magnon and Neanderthal, and also the Indo-European earliest myths have the twins.
Oh, the Dioscuri.
Yeah, well, can't remember the names that they have, and one could kind of be symbolized the earliest sacrifice of a cow that kind of becomes Tiamat in the later traditions, but the one twin is sacrificed by the other as sort of a, I guess, kind of a, I think, kind of a selfless act, or it's kind of like willing. I think it's a sort of a willing self-sacrifice. And Göbekli Tepe is in that region. Some of the places they seem to have interacted and interbred. They say people have about 2% Neanderthal DNA. Europeans do, not Africans. And at Göbekli Tepe, you have the two figures that are standing in the center, and they have loincloths. And I've always thought they seem to be male. There's nothing to indicate either are female. So before that, you have all these goddess figurines, and the one, I think it's 𝐤�𤅅𝑋𝐃𝐃𝐕 there that somebody mentioned in the chat, that's on a throne with what they say are two leopards that becomes two lions later. And then you see that with Ishtar and Inanna always standing on the two lions. And so there's this association with the lion goddess, the lion queen, that becomes later the lion king as the males take over. And it seems that those two figures in the center at Göbekli Tepe represent, I had thought that maybe they were a truce between the Neanderthal and the Cro-Magnon, but it could be the twins myth. And so I think what's an indication here, like in Enkidu, the beast man in Gilgamesh, that they become sort of adoptive brothers after initially fighting. And it seems to be like a racial memory of the encounter of these two peoples and recognizing that they're both brands of human. And then who's superior, who gets to rule, it's part of what's played out in this conflict between the enmity between the brothers. But I do think that's also kind of about the hunter-gatherers versus, or the gatherers versus the hunters. They were kind of one. The earliest settlement, one of the earliest settlements there in childless has thousands and thousands of people that live there. First place they start using the clay and agriculture, and they have the cow skulls in an altar in the buildings, and they're built like kivas. So they have a lot of parallels with Native Americans, like the Hopis and stuff, sky burials and things. They kept the skulls, and that's also in Israel. I believe they've found those, keeping of the skull of the ancestors, burying it in the floor, or having it as the totem, like there's grandma that we talked to and kind of the altar.
The only question is, how do you bring up either you bury them face up or somebody's chopping off. I should clarify, after they're dead, we're talking about, burial practices, but still, that's just really gruesome. It's like, just like in Futurama, the talking heads in the jars.
They would harvest the skull later. Generally, it's how I've seen it put, and then they put the clay
wait
back on
until
it.
the body decomposed.
Yeah, and they put the shells in the eyes, the cowrie shells, so it looks like two closed eyes, and they reconstruct the face.
Yeah, a couple
Um,
of thoughts there, Zero. Have you
mhm.
looked into the Indo-European creation myth? Because a lot of what you're saying there echoes like the Primo and Timu,
Yeah,
who's
there you
the
go, Yemo. Yeah,
yeah, Yemo.
which
And
seems to may relate to Yam, but yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Is
where
that
one of the two dies, and the one that dies, the other one creates the world out of them.
yeah, and there's different versions, and then they've kind of reconstructed them back, but it definitely seems to be this is another one of those indications of where the source material is of the Bible, Torah, and the reworkings of it, the repurposing of it, like kind of like what I think it's what is it, henotheism, where the gods are turned into people,
That's
which is
euhemerism.
euhemerism. Okay, yeah. And which is kind of a reversal because obviously a lot of the way the gods were portrayed was really a representation of a ruling class as gods. So it's kind of in a way taking it back.
I
But
was
I
going to say,
think, go ahead.
I just wanted to slide in the other one is whenever I think of Esau, I can't get the picture of Conor McGregor out of my head. Tag.
But yeah, I think we're dealing with this encounter between the beast men and the modern humans. And as I said, they were shown, there's shown supposedly genetically, at least part of them, to have that freckled red hair thing in their makeup.
Yeah, one of the challenges with that interpretation is it pushes the biblical timeline back before any sort of flood happened.
Well,
Because the
they're
last time you had interactions between Neanderthals and humans in that area probably would have been maybe about 40,000 BC.
Maybe
Like
it's
Shanadar Cave tag.
maybe it's just implying that like some sort of recessive line got expressed.
hmm yeah, like they say, there's about 2% genetics left in a lot of us, or in Europeans now. And then now they've discovered the Denisovans, the other line, more toward
Oh,
the Asian.
Uh, uh,
just real quick, Usal said that's what the Hebrew Black Hebrew Israelites think that Esau is. That's not where humans get the red hair gene. That's what Usal said.
The other one I was going to say is in that general area, you have to take into account the Netfuian culture, who I believe had
Natufian.
that Natufian, yeah, had that one, who I also see as probably related to the Shemshu Hor, who ruled Egypt in the pre-dynastic era. Tag.
Yeah, I think there was an older tradition,
Wait,
like everything was oral.
hold on. You can't just drop a bomb like that and not expound. Who are the Shamshu Hor?
Oh, that's from Egyptian. That's in the chronology of the king's list and stuff. The pharaohs. Back in you had the before the pharaohs, immediately preceding them were the Shemshu Hor, and before that you had the deities with Thoth and Mot and Ta and all of those people ruling Egypt. You know, it's all part of, I think it's the Turin Papyrus list.
Yeah, and
Interesting.
of course, we can still see some people today that like there's a local guy that they call him caveman because he looks very archaic with the brow ridge and everything.
Sort of in the used to have two brows before he shaved the top one off.
No, just the brow ridge. But and how about the name Esau? Should it be Esau or pronounced differently? And what's the etymology there?
Sorry, what was that?
Esau, how would it be properly pronounced, and what's the etymology meaning?
Esau, and let's see, where is it? Also here you have Vayeshev. It's funny because it's like a play on Esau. And so I think it might be spelled the same way, but I need to check. Let's see, Esau. Esau. Harry. Esau. Let's see. Of. So this is interesting. Esev with a vet means herb, herbage, grass, or green plants. With a vav, it means hair.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like Esev is the hair of the field, and Esav is like hair. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense.
Which also,
Yeah.
kind of connects it to like Enkidu, the beast man who ate, of the fields before he was domesticated by the temple priestess.
Oh, definitely parallels between Enkidu and Esau.
Yeah, I think it's more productive to look at that type of stuff. Like Esau was saying, dude, we're completing 30,000 years ago with 4,000 years ago.
Well, but it's all based on older traditions. The Sumerian myths are being retold, and that's thousands of years older than Torah.
All right, fair.
And the other one is, if you look at it as different levels of interpretation, it can be both, an individual person or a tribe, or it could be, it'd be a more long-term historical approach. And they just sort of conflated and condensed them into all one story.
Yeah, because it's an individual, but it's representing a nation. And I think with the Abel and Cain thing, I think it's a reversal. Like that's why everybody always confuses and switches who Cain and Abel is as far as their profession, because what subconsciously we understand is that the hunter is, the herdsman is likely to be more violent, slaying animals all the time. And I think it's a reversal. In various ways, them being a motley crew, they were the people in the mountains, pagan also representing people in the rural sphere that weren't acculturated into like the Greco-Roman city god system, So pagan actually initially referred to sort of the bumpkins that had their own, sacred rivers, sacred natural places, not this system of statues and supplication. And so they there's
Hey,
this whole
Usal, what's up?
Hey guys,
there's
can
this
you,
transition where, like with 𝐤𝐕𝐻𝐼𝐿, thousands of people live there, but archaeologically, they don't find signs of violence with the graves. Aside from later going back and harvesting the skull, bringing it up and putting clay on it, there aren't walls, there isn't warfare. And then it seems that with metallurgy that developed swords and such, this is what, as the Bronze Age comes in, starts becoming mass warfare and marauding. And because the settlements have, grain stores, a build up, they have animal husbandry too, of course, but in a settled form, the nomads at times get lean, they got to go in and maraud, and then eventually they merge, of course. But in the beginning, they had these goddess statues and these granaries where everybody put into the granary and shared it out. Later on, that's taken over by the god system with the male gods, and it's more of an onerous taxation, and we have it. And then you have that all the way down to where they start, they go to Egypt to get grain from the stores. And that's the beginning of writing, was keeping track of all those transactions and sending things out from the temples or between the temples. as an economic hub, and then then you start getting the stories being written long after like bills of lading and transactions.
Yeah. Welcome, Esau.
Thank you, brothers. I don't have much to say right now. I mean, I did, but it's all gone out of my head. But one thing, check. Can you guys hear me, by the way?
Yep.
Okay. One thing, like when you speak about the Natufians and stuff, just, they back migrated to Africa, thousands of years before the J2 haplogroup comes from the Zagros Mountains down after the Bronze Age collapse, So these are not necessarily cultures that had anything to do with them. We can piece it together now. We can also say the Garden of Eden was in Africa, right? But it's more likely that the Garden of Eden was, based on a West Asian kingly garden that was kept, with fruit trees and stuff like that. That's probably what they're talking about. Even though the human experience is out of Africa, that's not necessarily what they're talking about. Now, if you want to take it and extrapolate it, well, this is some genetic memory we have, and so we've always been talking about this travel. That may be one thing. I don't know. I don't see a source for that, but that's what I mean about conflating these stories. We got to be careful, because the next thing you know, we end up listening to what Graham Hancock has to say, or something like this. So that's my point about the conflation to be careful about.
No, I agree with you to a certain extent, but I think also that a lot of the stories got conflated over the years, and that's what you have with oral traditions or anything. It's condensed stories. This is a shorthand, and Graham Hancock, he's a journalist, and you have to take that into account, but not everything he says is totally bunk.
Yeah.
And it's like when it comes down to
Graham, can you tell me one thing that he says that's not bunk?
well, one of them is we still haven't figured out how the pyramids were built, and it's clearly using technology that we're not aware of exactly how it works.
Let me qualify that. Can you tell me something that Graham Hancock says that doesn't agree with what you would say mainstream archaeology, that he's saying is different than what mainstream? Can you tell me one thing that he says that's different from what mainstream archaeology says? That's not bunk.
A lot of it is, I do believe that we have lots of lost technology. I do believe that there was clearly a civilization that was high tech prior to existing history.
Okay, so what I'm hearing from you is you don't believe that these indigenous cultures, and tell me if I'm reading in this is too much.
One thing for me, I don't use belief. I come to conclusions. It's one of those, for me, belief is just one of those, it's not a relatable word.
Okay, I'm going to talk now. So from what I'm hearing from you, your conclusion is that these indigenous cultures couldn't have come up with these ideas by themselves. They couldn't have come up with the technology that's still there that we can find in archaeology by themselves. It had to be a white culture coming in.
Wait, Esau, I don't think that's what I'm saying.
No.
He's not saying it was aliens or white people.
No, let me finish. Because this is what Graham Hancock is saying. Is why I'm saying that. So that these cultures didn't come up with themselves. There had to be an external culture that came in and gave them this high technology. But all of these things can be proven. The drill, these type of things. That's how we made fire as well. The same way that we drilled into those rocks as humans.
Here's the problem with that is, have you looked at it's Ben from Uncharted X and the stone vases that are pre-dynastic?
Absolutely, I've seen this, and I can't give you, as I'm not a stone worker or mason or an archaeologist, I can't give you, but yes, I've seen those things completely debunked. Because before Graham,
you're using the term debunked. The question is, what's the best fit for the facts? And what they've shown on Uncharted X and what they're currently doing, a scanning project on literally hundreds to thousands of these vases.
Can you show me a source?
Uncharted X is the YouTube channel for Ben. And what they're showing is that the precision that they're done to It's a precision that was not capable prior to like the 20th century.
But it's there, so obviously they were capable of it.
Right, but you have later. Why did their ability to work stone deteriorate to such a primitive level
Why
in
did
the
England
dynastic
lose
period?
writing? Why did England lose writing? Why do we have the Dark Ages? I mean, these type of things do happen.
And that's what Graham Hancock is. That's the basic argument of Graham Hancock.
But
They
where
went
does
through
where?
we had a high-tech civilization that went through a dark age, and we lost that technology that we're trying to recover.
So you believe your conclusion is Atlantis existed, and these people came from Atlantis and went around the world and gave this technology? Because this is the conclusion that Graham Hancock has, correct?
I I came to various conclusions entirely independent of Graham Hancock.
Okay.
There you go.
One
So
of those is that we don't know much about the Denisovans.
okay,
One
but
of the conclusions that I had come to is the Denisovans were a separate, more advanced hominid species that developed in Southeast Asia. And they basically were able to, again, the Polynesians and a lot of the islanders are their descendants. And they had a very high-tech structure. We know that from the jade bracelet that dates, I believe they pushed it back to like 50 or 60,000 BC using drill speeds that haven't been replicated up until, probably about 17th or 18th century or so.
And likely sophisticated astronomy for navigating into the Polynesian islands.
Yeah, and you're not saying white. You're saying basically it's just a separate hominid species. I don't see anything that outrageous here. Tag.
forget I said white people. Just use it as an external culture. Do you believe that there was a place called Atlantis, or what we call Atlantis now?
You don't need an Atlantis to have high civilization in the past that gets degraded and diffused.
I'm not
One
going
of
to.
one of the things that I agree with, and was an explanation I gave, is there were many floods, many towers, many Atlantises. We've had lots of civilizations rise and then collapse. If you want to sit there and give the name Atlantis to the one that happened, prior to a flood, that's fine. If you want to sit there and again, you can put
One
Plato
thing
to
he
the
says,
Minoan civilization too, with Thera as Atlantis. Tag.
one thing that he says that mainstream archaeology doesn't say, that's not been debunked.
Well, one thing he says is about the pyramids not being tombs. We don't have any indication of them actually being used as tombs.
What about the bodies and the mummies inside of them?
Where have they found the mummies inside the pyramids? They find them in the Valley of the Kings, but where have they been found actually inside the pyramids?
And what about the writings of that the Egyptians?
Please answer my question. You sat there and said about the bodies inside the pyramids. I'm asking you to back that up.
I can't.
Seems
You're
like there
right.
are sarcophagi, but yeah, no
He
bodies.
he said you're right.
Thank you.
But yeah, these, as Graham was saying, this is a compression of things that over generations upon generations. You have those early Indo-European creation stories that have clearly diffused down, and they touch all the way to Sumer. Even though Sumer is a language isolate, there's clearly conceptual overlaps, and then you have everything going back to Africa, some of the earliest myths of
What about
understanding from about the serpent, the dragon. I mean, it just almost goes endlessly back.
I don't know. I'm hesitant to use such certain language.
I agree with you.
Well,
I like to go. That's why I go with abductive logic and best fit. And when it comes to mythology, one of the ones that I go to that I saw, probably about 4 or 5 years ago, is the Origin of World Mythology by Michael Witzel. And there he goes into there are basically two different major mythological strands. One of them being like more of the Indo-European one, which is more of a linear progress through time, where progress exists. The other one is more of a cyclical type of time, and that one is more of a southern. That's more of Australia and Africa, and much more of the cyclical time. And it's
Well,
very interesting to watch the interaction there. Tag.
yeah, and whether things are of an outright derivative lineage or is just a universal idea that bubbles up in different places, doesn't have to necessarily be a transmission, but something just kind of endemic because of the similar structure of the human mind, the similar experience of living in the environment. But these are recurring themes, and when you go into indigenous societies, very few of them anymore are not had some kind of contact and sort of conceptual contamination, you could call it. Uh, but you still have all these universal ideas and types of stories and personality archetypes and social interplays that you know it doesn't start when somebody starts scratching it on a parchment.
Yeah, I mean, I also think it's just worth mentioning, like, I mean, just look at how much, like Western society from the past. I mean, it's actually no, it's gotten to the point where it's completely universal now that the materials that we use to make our common goods has deteriorated, like to the point where we have to. Well, and so this is actually an interesting thing. You have much more like prolonged use of things in less developed nations, and the more developed you get, the more stuff gets thrown out, which I think is it's interesting because part of this also shows you how you can appreciate something a lot more by having less. And I think that, on one hand, that's not to justify the extreme poverty that exists in certain nations. There's like so much reason to and also another part of that is like also making sure that these communities that you're not just giving them aid that they're not able to actually continue, because that ends up creating reliance and it actually ends up being helpful. So it's about working with communities to make sure that they can take advantage of their own resources. But see, this is the thing, it's not profitable for companies, so that's why it doesn't get done. It's like it's so messed up. But the point being though is that the materials that we use, like if you look in the archaeological record, like I mean, given the plastics, might take millions of years to break down, but that doesn't mean that it's not going to, or not decompose, but it's going to lose its integrity, start falling apart, just, become part of the environment in all the worst ways. Like there's something about, I forget what y'all, oh, right. Basically that, just look at how quickly our society, like our global society, has been able to basically lose one of the biggest parts of what makes humans humans, and that's material culture.
Yes, and certain materials last and the others don't. That's part of your point there. And that
Planned obsolescence.
as we get away from this, things were built in stone so they would last through generations and not deteriorate. And
Um,
Göbekli Tepe was, even though it's used by alien conspiracy people and stuff like that, it pushed back the timeline way beyond what the paradigm was. So the scientific paradigm or the understanding is only the paradigm until it gets revised by some new discovery. It is not the law.
Yeah. So what were you going to say?
I got a couple things. One thing is, the point about not finding remains in the pyramids, bodies in the pyramids, is kind of a meme, and I wish you guys would actually look more into that. That's all I'm going to say on it. Fucking, you guys are right. Um, to your point, to the planned obsolescence and the stuff being created that way. Not to get it too philosophical, but it's also we're in our time is like that now. Like we keep getting new phones, but it's the same phone over and again. You know what I'm saying? Like we're not, as time's going on, we're not going any farther. I think Graham was talking about the linear pace of progress. We really haven't progressed from a certain point right now. We're kind of just, we get the new iPhone, but it's still the same thing. There hasn't been, we should have progressed past the phone by now, is what I'm getting at. And I think there's a certain stagnant progression with that built-in obsolescence of the material culture, because we're still stuck to the material culture that's not going away. But it's the same thing fed to us for more money and blah blah blah. Sorry,
I wouldn't go as much materialist culture as consumer culture.
No, I don't think. No, we're talking about material culture, like literally culture that is material. Like, for instance, like the material remains that are left behind by humans that aren't their own remains.
No, I understand. That's why I'm saying it's an economy that's based off of consumerism as opposed to basing it off of meeting needs of the people. It's tailored to wants and creating wants and hitting wants and profiting off of wants as opposed to going after needs.
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not
Okay.
talking about materialistic culture. I'm talking about, like, for instance, have you ever heard of, like, I'm trying to think, like, basically material culture, it's
the physical remains. Yeah, I get that.
Like, for instance, this is material culture. Oh, it's kind of hard to see, but
yeah, graveyards are material culture. Yeah, it's the remains of culture existing.
Yeah, it's not like it's ideology. It's just, I mean, you could definitely tie it to its ideology, but it's just literally like the skeletons of a culture itself.
No, I was saying why we haven't progressed is because of the yeah, that was because of it. We're in a capitalist commercial economic setup that's designed to hit for wants as opposed to needs.
Yeah, I didn't use the words because I'm in a kind of existential crisis with capitalism and always identifying as an anarchist and a leftist, and which just how crazy and meme like things are right now. It was hard for me to say, but yeah, that's what capitalism is though, and we're trapped in it. And with capitalism, that consumption is the only thing that's real, and it's not real itself, and that's why we won't progress, and we're stuck in this. No, I was looking for
the thing is, it's not capitalism per se; it's the consumerism linked with capitalism. And the biggest problem I think we have with capitalism right now is the absentee landlord aspect. That's broken any sort of connection between wages and profits. Hey.
I'd also argue that it goes further than it's necro-capitalism. It's about extracting profit from suffering and from death.
And the very word capitalism goes back to as relating to the head, and not so much that the head of control, though that's kind of what it's become, like the center of the capitals. It related to heads of cattle. And this again ties it back to these ancient cultures as one of the initial forms of wealth. And civilization is defined basically as writing, building, agriculture, whereas civilization existed before those signs that we can, attach to and still have remnants of and, put in a museum.
I'm laughing because I'm thinking about the four neurodivergent people trying to talk over each other in the morning. But just because the way you tied that back in, Zero, you made me think that. Speaking of that, I don't want to go back to a point that's off this, but when you were talking about Göbekli Tepe and my Turkish is so bad, but when you were talking about those places, and you said that the paradigm has to change and all this, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying you're right. But I wish you would go and actually look at the archaeology and see what archaeologists are saying about it, and you'd see that the paradigm shifted 16 years ago when this was found. And just because you hear stuff like that, mainstream archaeology, this and that, no, it's changed. It changed 16 years ago, and there's a lot of study and there's a lot of understanding of what happened at Göbekli Tepe and stuff. There's a lot. They know a lot more that they don't know now than they did back then too. So it's
Yeah.
not, and I don't want to take away from the people that work hard on this stuff and then make it their life's work to find truth and understanding of these old cultures for the love of it, the same way you love it, where you have some grifter that's going to come and say mainstream archaeologist isn't listening. We have to shift the idea of humanity back 30,000 years. Yeah, we do, and we did 16 years ago, brother. Just, you know what I mean? I just hope that I'm saying you're right, but
Well, with childless, the one of the largest, older in the same similar region, and the houses are all built together. There aren't really streets between them, and the entry is through the roof. It's like kivas. You can see a pattern and a structure there that is totally parallel to what ended up being the Native Americans. And so that's a long time separation of migrations and things. And yet that form of culture clearly carried through. And it might even relate to how they buried Göbekli Tepe, which is, I think
but
that was
have you seen the latest on that though? They're saying that it wasn't intentionally buried.
yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. There might be dispute about whether that is
Okay.
really it or not.
I was going to say, I would say it's pretty convincing that it actually was an landslides that buried it. I was,
Well,
ancient architects does a great job with stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, and look what happens when there's earthquakes in Turkey today. The way that the structures are built, they collapse, pancake.
Yeah,
But
it's made out of like tuft, the stone.
and the silting in would happen over time. Yeah.
to your point, are there? I know that there's Q haplogroups in the New World. Were these people like Q haplogroup that were doing Cthulhu? You know what I'm saying?
Cheddahoyuk, I don't know what their genetic, connectivity
Because
to other groups is supposed to have been, but things like the technology and culture can hop
yeah,
across ethnicity. It doesn't have to be a genetic thing like the various spear points that get
Just
no, but there's
just
migration.
the book.
What's that?
I said just look at the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one
But
thing
I
I
mean,
was going to say is there is a point that the current academic consensus isn't 100% right, and they have a vested interest in trying to protect the lives the falsehoods they currently accept as truth.
I mean, to be fair, nobody is ever 100% right because there's always the inevitability of the stuff that we don't know.
But too many in the academy are portraying themselves as the arbiter of right and wrong, and they try very hard to they present anybody who argues with their consensus as basically being a crackpot.
Yeah. And once something is institutionalized in an orthodoxy, it gets defended from that point, and it's not necessarily open or up on the later developments because they're just steeped in what they've got. But the thing about Chotlahoya,
how much of that is specific to those institutions, and how much of that is just human nature?
yeah, that's
and how
any institution, yeah.
and is it possible for people to throw red herrings and say that the institutions are doing this if they aren't, just to make money?
Of course.
Oh, sure, and
Absolutely.
you got intentional frauds like Piltdown Man and stuff.
It's a grift, yeah. It's a grift of tech. Like every
Oh, so-
ad you catch anymore, it's like they're gonna take down this ad because they're against the information I'm giving you. That's just like the hook for all the suspicious people in the world.
But I mean, I would think of back to our former, getting back to what I got on for too is I'm gonna, the connections here compared to connections to the Tufians are more likely, is what I'm getting at with stories. and even oral cultures. Oral
Actually,
traditions.
real quick, if I could just interrupt you, because I'm at the tired point where I'm getting some really interesting thoughts, but also forgetting them. So, I remember hearing some. So, what was it? So the capital of Seir, where the Edomites or Idumeans dwelled, was called Salah. Now, Salah is the Semitic direct translation of Petra. Now the Petraeans, or like the slash Idumeans, which was interesting because Herod's mother, I think, was a what was it, Nabatean princess,
Yep.
and then the Nabateans were in Petra. Nabatea and where was I going with this? Basically, like, it seems like it might be like a similar. Where was I going with this? Basically that the Nabateans are known to have basically been one of the like direct descendants of the Natufians. Am I right about that?
I don't know anything about that. That'd be crazy that they'd been there that long.
That fits everything that I've found out.
Yeah, but also I'm pretty sure the Natufians are one of the major constituents of what's like basically is by nature of the people, the graves that they've found in Canaan dating to those periods of the people who would have been identified as Canaanites, that a significant portion of their DNA on top of what would have been like, Arameans, like coming from further like northeast, so like from Mesopotamia, but that the Natufians, which originated in like modern day, I think, Jordan, back when the region was a bit more fertile. I mean, it still is pretty fertile, but like it used to be like the breadbasket of the region. And so basically they migrated further west in order to seek more fertile land after climate change caused some of their land to basically become desolate.
So my understanding of who they were the people that migrated out of North Africa into what became Canaan, and through that migration, they kind of discovered when they dropped the grain and where it would grow. So that's where grain agriculture comes from, are the Natufians. But when the people from the Zagros started coming down south, they started migrating back into North Africa, most of them. That's my understanding of.
You sure you mean Zagros as opposed to Caucasus?
I mean
Zagros
both.
I was going to say Zagros would be far to the east.
Right. So like the southern Zagros, so northern Iraq, southern Iran. This is 30,000 years ago. You know what I'm saying? So.
Well, the location, the continents haven't moved much in 30,000 years, to be fair.
So no, I do mean the Zagros, though. I mean these are the J2 haplogroup, stuff like that. The J1s are coming from the southern, like the Horn of Africa and the like Saudi Arabia, Yemen, this area. They're coming from the south that way, but not until later times. The J2s are coming from the northeast down, and there's whatever is going on. But by the Bronze Age, it's pretty much most of who were the Natufians aren't there any longer.
Oh yeah,
from what I understand.
Yeah, the Natufians easily by I'd say 2,500 they were well gone by dynastic by dynastic and civilization times.
A lot of the E haplogroups that are there later are probably later colonies from Egypt coming up and stuff like that. So that's more where that was, I think. But that's me without any kind of, I'm sitting on my kitchen table. So my counter.
Yeah, the one I'm still trying to wrap my head around is King Tut being an R haplogroup.
Before I start talking about Jewish history, it's helpful to discuss that history has always been shaped by factors like geography, climate, and language. The land comprising present-day Israel and its neighbors is located on the eastern end of the Mediterranean Sea. Geologically, it's actually part of the African plate, and it's that geological separation from Arabia that's responsible for creating the extreme rift valley that includes the Dead Sea, as well as the high mountains on either side. For obvious reasons, it was the first place where modern humans arrived after leaving Africa. So the archaeological record here goes back incredibly far, and we're always finding more. A lot of what we find in the early record resembles finds all over Europe and Asia like fertility idols, but toward the end of the last ice age, the first signs appear of a distinct regional culture. This original culture, called Natufian, is notable in recent years for upending a lot of anthropologists' preconceptions about how societies evolve, because all evidence suggests that the Natufians adopted a sedentary lifestyle thousands of years before developing agriculture. This gives credence to the idea that...
There, you see that? The calorie shells in the skull.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see that, Graham?
Because all...
Or are you not able to see?
I was writing it in the chat.
Yeah, they're probably also related to the neuralgic culture as well.
That's so creepy.
Evidence suggests that the Natufians adopted a sedentary lifestyle thousands of years before developing agriculture. This gives credence to the idea that cities originated as a means of defense rather than trade, and it's a testament to how lush
Where are the
and
calorie
fertile
shells
the
in
coastal
those
region of
eyes,
West Asia
Coach?
was and still is. If you're my age or older, you probably learned at some point about the Fertile
If
Crescent,
you want to join,
regions spanning modern-day
curling.
Mesopotamia and the Levant that spawned early agriculture and city development. The problem with this concept is that while Israel and Mesopotamia are indeed both fertile, they aren't fertile for the same reasons. For one, contrary to your 6th grade ancient history textbook, the Jordan is not a major river like the Tigris or Euphrates. In most seasons, it's shallow and narrow enough to walk across, and while an important source of drinking water, it is not adequate for wide-scale irrigation. And as the Natufian culture demonstrated, you didn't need wide-scale irrigation to develop a complex society here because, unlike Mesopotamia and Egypt, the Levant isn't a desert. For that misconception, we can probably thank 19th century photographers, who had the misfortune to be the first to document the Holy Land after centuries of deforestation and soil erosion from which it still hasn't fully recovered. As recently as the First Crusade, the Judean mountains and Sharon plain would have more closely resembled modern Israel, with extensive mixed forests, meadows, and close-knit farmsteads. That's because, like most of the Mediterranean, Israel is located in the subtropics, where the prevailing wind changes direction seasonally, as well as having a large ocean to its west and a large continent to its east. Commonly known as a Mediterranean climate, the result is that cold, temperate winter storms from the Atlantic hit with full force, while hot, tropical summer storms from the east run out of energy long before they can even get close. Other places with wet winter, dry summer climates include California, as well as parts of Chile, Australia, and South Africa, all places notable for developing sedentary societies without intensive agriculture. But because Israel was right next to Egypt and Mesopotamia, it meant that those agrarian societies had an instant market for exporting their surplus grain. And when Israel did adopt agriculture, its farmers could focus on more specialized crops like fruits and vegetables and wine. Without having to produce all your own food, an unusually dry winter didn't have to wipe you out. In fact, droughts made for better, more valuable wine. So your population could become bigger and wealthier and more specialized. And because the Mediterranean is relatively small and enclosed with regularly shifting seasonal winds and minimal turbulence, mutual trade could sustain and develop water-scarce cultures all over the region, from the Etruscans to the Greeks to the Hittites to the Semites, who displaced the Natufian culture around the end of the last ice age. So why does this matter to understanding Jewish history? Well, for most people in the modern age, the Jewish story has been told by non-Jews for non-Jews, and accordingly it has been continually reshaped and recontextualized by politics and prejudice and taking the biblical narrative at face value. But Judaism didn't come down from Mount Sinai. It grew up organically from the soil. When the Jewish people first emerged as a distinct nation at the beginning of the Iron Age, they were keenly aware of the fragile interconnectedness in which they were able to live. That's why so much of the Torah deals with rules for farming and forestry. It's why environmentalism is a universally accepted aspect of being Jewish, with an entire holiday dedicated to planting trees. And it's why many Orthodox Jews today feel they can't be fully observant unless they return to the land of their ancestors. It made us who we are. Hey, thanks for checking out this video. It will be the first of many on Jewish history. If you want to support this channel, you can check out my Patreon page, which is linked in the description below, or simply like, share, and subscribe. This video was written, illustrated, and performed by me, Sam Arano. Today's background image was an apartment in Old Jaffa, one of the oldest continually inhabited cities in the world. I will see you next time.
And so there is this whole, I think that societal transition is key to the biblical viewpoint is about asserting a new form of society over an older one. The original kind of the indigenous understandings, like before they understood that male sperm was involved in procreation.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree.
They
It's
just
very much. There's a layer of the Bible that's a transition to a Bronze Age agricultural culture from a previous hunter-gatherer, herder type culture tag.
initially they just knew that people were born from women, so the women had the special status as being where people come from, kind of the underworld out of which they crawl. And then as metallurgy seems to be kind of the thing that really kicks in patriarchy and warfare. You had skirmishes and violence before that, of course, but the settled cities being a big thing to sack, and then the swords being a sure way to eliminate your obstacles to that stash, and then that's what you have is basically sword culture, fortress culture, supplanting the original kind of living in the bounty of the earth as a primate kind of fruit of the tree.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna finish this up so I can go to sleep. So, we're almost done. Actually, give me 1 second.
That Esau, Esau, being the fields, hairy fields.
The food that he'd gone out to hunt. And that's why, while he was away, Jacob was able to wear them while Esau was still out hunting. So he saved his very best clothes to honor his father. And we find much later in the Torah that God forbids the Israelites to wage war against Esau's descendants. He tells Moses, "Give the people these orders. You're about to pass through the territory of your brothers, the descendants of Esau, who live in Seir. They will be afraid of you, but be very careful. Don't provoke them to war, for I will not give you any of their land, not even enough to put your foot on. I have given Esau the hill country of Seir as his own." And later still, Moses commands the Israelites, "Lo teta'ev Edomi, do not abhor an Edomite that is a descendant of Esau. Ki achicha hu."
Oh, Ghost, you can still join. I mean,
And the
it will be
sages
a bit.
understood both of these provisions as an enduring reward to Esau for the way he fulfilled that one great command to honor his father. So was Isaac right or wrong to love Esau? Esau reciprocated the love, but remained Esau, the hunter, the man of the field, not the man to carry forward the demanding covenant with an invisible God and the spiritual sacrifices it called for. Not all children follow the path of their parents. If it was Isaac's intent that Esau should do so, he failed. But there are some failures that are honorable. Loving your children, whatever they are, is one. For that surely is how God loves us. Shabbat Shalom.
I started smiling before he said Shabbat Shalom because I heard it before he said it. I haven't listened to him since he passed.
Yeah, he was a real gift. So, yeah. What do you think about that with the whole idea of Seir, and Selah?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
I agree. I think that there's a lot more importance to Petra than has been written down. I think that Petra. I think the idea of Petra being the original spot that Muhammad came from, stuff like that, even into that far into the present. I mean, I think Petra was way more important, or whatever you want to call it, whatever time.
Yeah, no,
You met them yet?
we've had some of my discussions on that one where the Dan Gibson work with the Qiblas and the directions had me as like, and via the
The
everything
Qiblas,
else.
the
Yeah,
Qiblas or the Qiblaim or whatever they are, and all the trade routes point the same directions that those Qiblaim or Qibliot point.
yeah,
You
and
know what I
all the
mean?
traditions all the traditions allegedly from Mecca, correspond so much better to
Yep,
Petra,
yep.
and the fact that Petra became basically unusable after the earthquake in the 600s, right about the time of the rise of Muhammad, or right
Okay,
after, I
okay.
should say.
Yeah.
And but going back further than that, you have it where I trace it to the Edomites versus the Midianites being one of basically back in the days of Moses. You're talking, earlier Bronze Age, and that was a contest. Those two cultures were kind of on sides of each other, and the Midianites kind of lost out later on, and it was the Edomites that were still hanging around. And I also tie in Petra to Korah, and where the desert swallowed Korah and all of his wealth, and that basically is the analogy for what became Petra there. Tag.
Is there anything with Edom relating to red and the red earth?
That's what it is. That's everything. That's everything.
Well, and Petra is also the rose sandstone.
Right. That's what I mean. That's everything. That's where this is coming from. Red of the clay for the man too, but Edomites are from the red land.
And the red man? Yeah.
And let's see, what's this? Yeah, Ghost, that's what they were saying.
There's what is it, Kemet in the Egyptian?
Yeah, that means black earth. It has to do with the Nile, the mud from the Nile.
And then
But to Zero's point, that's juxtaposed to the red land of the desert.
Interesting, yeah. And Set was the red god.
I'm sure you've saw Dr. Litwaw's book, Evil Creator, on that and all that.
I think I've heard of it.
He just ties it in. I mean, he takes it to a Christian with the mule or the ass coming from the desert, but Set's being an ass-headed deity from the desert, like the West Asians. He was eventually in the pantheon, I think he was considered a foreign god of pestilence and things like that. And then later Hashem becomes the god of pestilence to them. So the conflation there. Yeah. And then all the way.
I was going to say, technically, I don't think they know what the animal that Set corresponds to. It's similar to a donkey, similar to a dog. It's definitely an odd sort of one. One of the big tie-ins I always heard for Islam was Sin, the moon god of Mesopotamia. Tag.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you think about a tough animal out in the desert by itself, just doing crazy stuff, is a jackass or whatever. So I can get that point too of it being that.
Ezekiel 35.
Oh, this looks like some conspiracy theory.
Moreover, the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against.
Originally,
Anyway.
Before Mecca? Or what
Yeah.
was the other one? Medina? Or...
Anyway, oh.
Yo.
Hey, guys.
What's up?
There was the scenario that the 360 gods of Mecca.
I think 365.
Yeah, relating to,
Yeah.
clearly the astronomical understanding of the year.
Anyway. What?
Do you want me? I was going to make one more point to that. Was about the black stone and how there were more black stones, white stones around because meteorites. You could see them in the desert. Yeah, up into the time of Elagabalus and all that stuff. So, where that.
Oh, okay. So you have the 3 stages of alchemy with that. The black, the red, and the white. Or not in that order, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's crazy.
So anyway, ויהי רעב בארץ מלבד הרעב הראשון אשר היה בימי אברהם, וילך יצחק אל אבימלך מלך פלישתים גררה, וירא אליו אדוני ויאמר אל תרד ממצרים השוכן בארץ אשר אמר אליך גור בארץ הזאת ואהיה עמך אברכך כי לך ולזרעך אתן את כל הארצות האל מותי את השבועה אשר נשבעתי לאברהם אביך והרביתי את זרעך ככוכבי השמיים ונתתי לזרעך את כל הארצות האל ויתברכו בזרעך כל גויי הארץ עוקב אשר שמע אברהם בקודי וישמור משמרתי מצוותי חוקותי ותורתי וישב יצחק בגרר וייסב יצחק וישאלו אנשי המקום לאישו ויאמר אחותי היא כי ירא לאמור אשתי פן יהרגוני אנשי המקום עליך כי טוב עד מרעי ויהי כי הלכו לו שמה ימים וישקף אבימלך מלך פלישתים בעד החלון וירא והנה יצחק מצחקת רבקה אשתו ויקרא אבימלך ליצחק ויאמר אחי הנה אשתך היא ואיך אמרת אחותי היא ויאמר אליו יצחק כי אמרתי פן אמות עליה ויאמר אבימלך מה זאת עשית לנו cunning מת שכב אחת המת אשתך והבת עלינו אשם ויצב אבימלך את כל העם לאמון הנוגע באיש הזה ובאשתו מות יומת. Alright. And there was hunger in the land. There was nothing like Milphod beside from the hunger, the first hunger that was in the days of Abraham. And Isaac went to Avimelech, the king of the Philistines, to Gerar. And Adonai appeared before him, and he said, "Do not go down to Egypt." Interesting. Did it say anything about Egypt? I thought he's just going to Gerar, which is like the Philistine lands. I don't know. It's interesting, but it almost seems like they're identifying this with Egypt. Let's see.
No, I think the point there is you go to Egypt if there's a famine, and Abimelech is basically saying, yeah, there's a famine, but don't go to Egypt. Go to this land I'm going to give you instead.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let's see. Shochen ba'aretz asher amar. Elachad. Dwell in the land. Dwell in the land that that is spoken to you. Or wait, I'm not. Omar. So the interesting thing here is that he's already living in the land. Let's see. Gur ba'aretz says live in this land. That's right. It's saying that, and I will be with you, and I will bless you, because and for you and for your seed. Wait. Because you and to your seed I have given all the lands, el hakimoti, all these lands to your descendants, I think. Yeah, ha'el. Haaretz ha'el. These lands to your descendants et hashvua, all those who uphold it's saying it will give it those to those who uphold the promise that, or the promise that has been sworn for Abraham, your father. or that I swore. No, it's saying that I swore to Abraham, your father. Here, Beiti, and I will Rava. Yeah, and I will increase your seed. Well, it says I will make your heirs as numerous as, but literally I will increase your seed. It sounds like one of those, like, those like supplements. It's like, super male supplement pro. I don't know. I've never taken any of it, so it's like, they're all scams for the most part. Otherwise, it's like, just, there's certain foods that are better for you, but like at the end of the day, if anything promises you, I don't know. I'm really tired, so.
I was going to say that.
Yeah.
That relates a little bit back to something earlier that you were asking about, how though she was young, she was barren, and I think that there's various
Oh, he was barren.
Well, there's that thing, but I think also there's various places there's an indication that the women are practicing birth control. The women are the herbalists, the witches, the ones that were gathering the plants that became farming, and they had the knowledge of ways to have birth control, forced miscarriage, and they were deciding when to have children, and the guy doesn't understand.
Interesting.
Because again and again that comes up that they can't conceive until, and then there was the point we were talking about with the red seed and the white seed of the female and the male.
Yeah.
Also, though, I mean, it was just to become virile. To be virile was to be manly and like godly. Like gods were very virile as well. So I think it's more of just like he made him more manly, and that was like something that was virtuous. Like you just make a woman pregnant by walking in the room.
Yeah, but there's also.
Yeah, but where's the fun in just walking in the room?
You know what I'm saying? Like you're fucking. Excuse me. Your genitalia precedes you into the room. How about that? That's how he's kind of putting it.
But there's an underlying female culture, like the whole Ashara's orchard basis is an underlying female culture that's there, and they have ways of mind gaming the men and reinforcing certain things.
Wait, what do you mean they had? Well, you think women don't have that today?
No, I didn't say that, but I mean, I'm saying that though this is supposed patriarchal culture and male
I say that all with love.
They had the underlying goddess culture still embedded there that bubbles up at various points.
I understand, but this passage itself is just talking about. I mean, even to a woman, a man was virtuous because he was virile and because he could give you grandchildren. Through him, you're going to get grandchildren even. So it was.
That's also the way the women can manipulate the man.
Absolutely.
Reason
but is that
conceiving? The reason I'm not conceiving is because you haven't done this or that.
I wouldn't say manipulate so much as it's more of a dance.
Well, it has to become manipulation the more it's suppressed. It has to be slyly inserted instead of directly negotiated.
Anyway, let's see. So I will increase your I will make your seed great, great like the stars in the sky, and I will give to your seed all the lands, all these lands, and I will bless in your seed. Or no, and oh no, and in your seed, the nations, all the nations of the earth will be blessed. Wait, I feel like we have some friends that would probably take that in so far as that means that you're going to be blessed by being, you know, you're going to be blessed by seed. I literally yeah, so some bogomils. You know, actually, I do wonder. Do you think maybe the like the what were they called? Like the, you know, like there's like the spermatophagites. I almost I like phagists, like you know, the spermatophagy. It's I really
sacrament of semen in the
yeah
communion.
Yeah, do you think maybe it has something to do with this? Like, do you think maybe they misinterpreted this text?
I mean, literally seed. Yeah, Zera. Yeah.
I literally, I will make your seed great, like the stars in the heaven, and I will give to your seed, or I will give for your seed. I will give your seed. Okay, this is interesting. I will give to your seed, or I will give for your seed all the lands, all these lands, and the nation, and all the nations of the earth will be blessed in your seed. I mean, I'm sorry, but like, it really feels like some people could have taken this the wrong way, especially seeing how some people are taking stuff the wrong way today.
The Israelites read that meaning into it.
What do you mean?
Like literal seed, their semen is the seed.
I prefer to think that we'll be blessed by cannabis seeds, but I don't think that's what that means.
Right. But I'm saying they I don't know how what they do with it, but I know that that's something that they take as literal, because they will argue that it's through a man that you have a kid to this day.
Okay, that's interesting. Do they know how anatomy works? Because
You know,
it takes.
You've seen me argue, so you know what I do.
Yeah. All right. So let's see, where are we at?
Was it only in the Kabbalic stuff of an episode or so ago where they were talking about the red seed of the woman and the white seed of the man?
I don't remember.
The male and female aspects, like what determined whether it would be a male child or a female child.
Yeah, I forget. It was either 1 or 2 ago.
And the other thought that occurs to me is this a story of Isaac going to see his papa Abimelech in order to get his inheritance from him for the land?
Awkward. It's like time to pay child support, buddy boy. All right. And so, let's see. What is this? I have, as long as you, or as much as Abraham listened, in my voice and protected and guarded, or protected my guard, and protected and guarded my commandments, and laws or statutes and teachings. So it's like a condition. And Vayeshev Yitzchak Gerar, and Isaac stayed in Gerar, and Vayisha. And when the people of the place inquired, inquired for his wife, and said, Achoti he, he said, she is my sister.
Just doing what Daddy taught me.
Yeah. because he was afraid to say Ishti, my wife. Therefore, he Haruguni lest the people of the place kill me for Rebecca because because she is very beautiful. Oh my god! I'm sorry. I'm tired. This is it's absolute cringe. No, because she is very beautiful, and so it was. It was a long time for him. There, the days Shakaf. Avimelech looked over. The king of the Philistines looked over beyond his window, or beyond the window, and beheld Isaac. Oh, that's funny. Yitzchak mitzachek. So it's like a play on words, but et Rivka ishto. This translation has fondling his wife Rebecca, but literally playing with his wife. I mean, I don't think he was mocking or laughing at her. Making sport, toying with, making a toy of, that would be interesting. There's a lot of ways to interpret this, but I think we know what it's talking about.
This is why I think that your Borat impersonation of my sister was pretty appropriate. You know, he's like, hey, don't kill me. Instead, check out my sister. She's not my wife. Don't worry.
Take care, Gusval. I mean, he's not here anymore, but still feel I'd say, yeah. My wife is like very nice. High five.
It's also showing that he understands his God to be jurisdictional and personal and not universal. Like that it's not the God of everything, that it is a God that he is, his patron.
Where are you getting that from?
His whole, they do not fear, my God. He doesn't even seem to even think that his God could really do anything to them. Like he doesn't have the sense that here I am, I've got the one true God working with me. Therefore, I don't have to worry. I'm in the zone. I'm in the blessing. And that shows the pagan roots of how different cities had their own gods. You had your God, and then when you went to the next place, they had their God, and when in Rome.
Yeah, I just think it's a bit of a stretch to say that, because, like, even within this own internal narrative, he still isn't worshiping, Adonai or Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. He's worshiping El. So this isn't quite the same regional God. I mean, it is a regional God, but like the region where he is would still have worshipped El.
Yeah, not even necessarily to a particular region, just that it is a God among gods.
Okay, I'll agree with that.
And not the sense that it is the superior of all gods.
I won't agree with that, because I do think that there is you have to keep in mind that, like, unless you believe that Abraham actually existed, then I think, like, in that case it might make sense. But the way that the narrative's written, it's definitely written in a way, like, at the end of the day, it's just God isn't some invincibility mode that you turn on in a game. It's like like this idea of he'll make promises and he'll keep them, but not that he'll like literally protect you if you do something that's, I mean, at the end of the day, like, I feel like you have to keep in mind that this is being written most likely in the, the 5th century BCE, I think. Like, while you already are, this is like the story of Abraham is, I mean, basically Genesis is being written in the context of these other traditions that it's trying to establish itself in superiority to. I don't think it's, like its way of viewing things as superior, like inherently. Like I think
it's Yahweh at this point, right? Not El.
No, they haven't. Yahweh gets introduced with Moses.
Okay, yeah. Okay, not
no, but see, that's the thing. Here it is. Let's see, where is it?
They may have backdated, thrown the name in an
Yeah.
anachronism, but in the story chronology, he's revealing the name Yahweh to Moses in the within the story. And I think one of the points is there's a difference between El and El Elyon.
Yeah.
El Elyon is that highest God above all of them.
Welcome back, Esau. Let's see. So, let's see. And so Avimelech sent for Isaac, and he said, so there she is, your wife, and how have you said to me, she is my sister? He said to him, Isaac said to him, because I said, lest I would be killed over her. And Avimelech said, what is this? What is this you have done to us? A little one of us could have lied with her and with your wife, and would have brought upon us asham, guilt. And so Avimelech commanded or charged all the people, and saying, anyone who touches in the woman, well, that's uncomfortable. Oh wait, no, touches. Wait, in the man, touches in this man or in this woman will certainly die. Okay, why? This is almost like this is a repeat of Sodom, except they're the king's good. Wait a second, I remember hearing of this. Have you ever heard of the tradition of Avimelech as king of Sodom?
No.
One of his satellite one sister cities.
Wait, no. I'm wrong. It's Melchizedek, king of Sodom. Where is this coming from, though? I don't remember. Oh, God. I think this is one of... This seems like it actually might be one of the things that the... Oh, you've got to be kidding me. I think this is something that's part of... This might be part of Jehovah's Witness doctrine. I'm not sure.
But it is saying to not lie with either the man or the woman.
It's not saying don't lie with them. It's saying don't touch in them.
Penetrate, yeah.
I'm not quite... I mean,
so
like,
let's just say that there are some activities that are prohibited. Other ones the Bible isn't speaking towards.
Wait, so you're saying it doesn't mention anything about soaking?
Well, I was thinking like, that
Also,
one, bukkake,
Also, I'll have you know, I didn't know what that was until this year when I started. Actually, no. It was because one of my friends who's from Utah some people started like joking about Mormon. Actually, it might have been him or it might have been another friend from Utah, but people started asking them about that and about Mormons. And again, apparently it's something that only some people do, but it's kind of like only some people do some. Anyway, where am I going with this? So what's the deal with this? It seems like it's like this is a direct parallel. I need to find the thing about Melchizedek, king of Salem, but there's definitely some weird stuff going on here, and I'm not just talking about the sexual stuff. I'm talking about the textual stuff.
And does this one also get into how the other women are made barren in Abimelech's court?
Mm-hmm. Anyway,
I would like to note that we've gone so far where passing your sister off as your wife is no longer something strange. Hey.
Just a standard day in reading the Bible. Am I right or am I right? Let's see. So that goes to third. Let's see.
But I mean, if in the other iteration of this scenario, the other women were not able to conceive.
Yeah.
Because of the affront.
Anyway.
And that would have taken time to determine, like nine months or more, to determine that they're not bearing, and it seems to also point to the possibility of like this birth control thing.
Anyway, let's see, where are we at? All right. Vayizra Yitzchak ba'aretz ההיא וימצא בשנה ההיא מהשערים ויברכהו אדוני ויגדל האיש וילך הלוך וגדל עד כי גדל מאוד ויהי לו מקנה צאן ומקנה בקר ועבודה רבה ויקנאו אותו פלישתים וכל הבארות אשר חפרו עבדי אביו בימי אברהם אביו שיטמאו פלישתים וימלו עפר ויאמר אבימלך אל יצחק לך מעמנו כי עצמת ממנו מאוד וילך משם יצחק ויחן בנחל גרד וישב שם וישב יצחק ויחפור את בארות המים אשר חפרו בימי אברהם אביו ויסתמו פלישתים אחרי מות אברהם ויקרא להן שמות כשמות אשר קרא להן אביו ויכברו עבדי יצחק בנחל וימצאו שם באר מים חיים ויריבו רעי גרר עם רעי יצחק למול המים ויקרא שם הבן כי תשוקו עמו ויכפרו באל אחרת ויעברבו גם מחנה ויקרא שמה שתנה ויעתק משם ויכפור בהר אחרת ולא רבו עליה ויקרא שמה רחובות ויאמר כי אתה הרחיב אדוני לנו פרבורינו בארץ ויען משם בהשבה וירא אליו אדוני בלילה ההוא ויאמר אנוכי אלוהי אברהם אביך אל תירא כי איתך אנוכי וברכתיך והרביתי יצריך בעבור אברהם עבדי. All right, so let's see, 4. Yeah. So where were we? 20. Wait. Gerar. Okay, here it is. And so Isaac sowed in that land, and he found in that year, Mea Sharim, 100 Sha'ar, 100 measures, and he was blessed in them, and Hashem blessed them, and the man grew, or the man was exalted and became and walked the path of greatness until he was great, very great. In this context, it's saying rich, but great. And he was for him, he bought flocks and acquired cattle and servants, a large household staff, and acquired so that the Yakan is interesting, so that the Philistines became envious of him, and all the Be'erot, and all the Chafru, like they stopped. Wait, no, dug, Chafar, search for, and all the Be'erot, all the wells that were dug by the servants of his father in the days of Abraham, his father, were stopped up by the Philistines and filled with dust or earth. And Avimelech said to Isaac, go away from us, because you are too much for us. you're too much. Go away, you're too much. And so he went from there. Isaac went from there, and he, he encamped in the Nachal of Gerar, and he dwelled there. And Isaac dwelled, and he dug wells of water that had been dug in the days of Abraham his father, and which the Philistines had stopped up after the death of Abraham, and he called them the names as the names that were called as they were called by his father, and he dug. But when the servants of Isaac dug the well, dug in the wadi or in the Nahal, they found there a well of living water or of spring water, and the Vayarav, the Rav, and the shepherds of Gerar contended or rabbled with the shepherds of Isaac, and to say this water is ours, and called the well by the name Eshek, because they strived with him. And when they dug another well, they argued also over it, and they called there Sitna, and that means accusation or enmity. Does it say that in this? Yeah, or harassment. And they attack. Interesting. Atik, proceed. Oh, in years, that's why it means ancient. So and he proceeded from there, and he moved on from there, and dug another well, and did not, and there was not rabble over it, and he called there Rehovot, saying, because finally Adonai has widened or given me space or given me width for us. And he dug parat, to grow it, to become fruitful in the land. It's interesting because it's playing this pun of was it Chofer, I think. Sorry, Chafar with here para, like the para, chapara. It's a play on words that you're getting there. It's really interesting. Vaya'al Misham and Ya'al. What's this? And he went up from there to Beersheba. He went up there. Wait, from there he went up to Beersheba. One second. Let's see. One more sentence. One second. Sorry, one second. And he Adonai appeared to him at that night, and said, I am the gods of Abraham, your father. Do not fear, because I am for you. I am with you, and I will bless you, and I will increase your seed, but on account of Abraham, my servant. Okay, cool. So we're let's see, 24. So we are 3 out of 7 done. So we'll do 2 more another day, and then 2 more another day. Cool.
Are you familiar with Atlet Yam? It's a.
Is it a town?
Well, it's a submerged site that is on the coast of Israel, that has a large few stones around a spring, and they are like the ones at 𐤕𤅅𤋃𤐕, and I think there's maybe also the indentations for cups and things, and so it seemed to be a sort of a sacred spring site that was marked with these lentils in an arc. There's the kind of opening where you come in, but around it there's this arc of large stones, and it has now been subsumed by the sea. So I don't think anybody else has used it, but I've called it Aquahenge, because it's like a Stonehenge, but now under the water, and it was centered around a spring.
Interesting.
Yeah, interesting. They have Seahenge up on the North Sea as well. And what's echo, one of the things here is it seems like Isaac is a water dowser. He's able to find the wells to dig.
Anyway, let's see. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. All right. On that note, this was fun, and we will do this again soon.
Want to tell the Rebbe the words of the new song that we're singing with Mashiach, right? So I'm just going to read him. Am Yisrael, have no fear. Mashiach will be here this year. We want Mashiach now. We don't want to wait. Okay? We want Mashiach now. We want Mashiach now. Yisrael, have no fear, Moshiach will be this year. Yisrael, have no fear, Moshiach will be here this year. We want Moshiach now, we want Moshiach now, we don't want to wait. We want Moshiach now, we don't want to wait.